All right, we're finally recording. No going back now because I have already pressed record. And so we're already doing it. We're doing it. Committing. Okay, so, hi, I'm Ash. If you want to talk shit about me, my pronouns are they, them. And I am a biracial gay Scorpio on day 10 of my cycle. And I am feeling energized. I'm feeling very caffeinated. Yeah, but in relation to my cycle, I have this kind of accomplishment mindset right now. I'm getting a lot of things done in my day and being able to organize them well and doing a lot of things that are good to me, like exercising. Like, did you know that exercising makes you feel good? But I totally forgot that. Like 2 weeks ago, I was kind of like jolted into my follicular phase, and I kind of was like, what have I been doing the past 2 weeks, like mentally? Yeah, there's just this whole new wave of mental clarity, not being so bogged down by my mental illness, and like, I had a lot of stuff going on during my luteal phase because I couldn't make space for it like I usually would. And it's mostly good things that I was busy with, a lot of quality time with my friends. It was just kind of a lot to experience that along with my luteal phase, as you may know, because we live in a really 24-hour cycle world. And when you do things and you're in your luteal phase, there is a little bit of like a film over you while you're doing it, whether you're like, I'm like cramps and bloating, or like, I'm kind of like emotional today, or I'm kind of sluggish today, but you still go out and do the things and you have a good time. Um, Generally, some people really cannot do this phase and do things, which is, I totally commend you for staying in and taking care of yourself. Like, that's really what I want to do, even though my luteal phases aren't as bad as other people's. But I was still able to go out and do all the stuff while in the luteal phase, which is really great. But now I'm in my follicular phase, and I'm like, holy shit, I have this whole new mindset right now of just wanting to do things that are good for my body and trying to plan more things. This is a really good time for planning and organizing. So, a couple things have shifted with me, though, that I want to tell you about that I think are really cool. My last period, my period before last, my period's grandchildren, I don't know, or my my period's grandparent. I don't think that's really how it works. It's shifted in my body though, and the bleeding phase, it like kept me up at night with cramps, which is unusual. Like, it usually happens in the morning or during the day. And I ended up using like all my period underwear in the span of 24 hours. And like the last few cycles even before that have extended to 35 days rather than 28 days. So now my period has shifted over, and now I'm in a full moon cycle. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that is. So I used to bleed on the new moon, but now I'm bleeding more near the full moon. Not exactly on the day, but around the full moon. So many things affect your cycle, especially with what you put into your body and what you eat and your stress levels. In the past few months, I had a round of antibiotics, I had COVID, I had various vaccines, there was also stress from those situations, and the energetics of this cycle shift. And this is really interesting to me. So along with like these stressors that may have really jolted my cycle into shifting, my personal belief and opinions, you could take it or leave it, but are that I got a full moon cycle because my life is shifting. So one who bleeds near the full moon, I think it's characterized by nurturing something other than yourself. I used to bleed on the new moon where I was focused on nurturing myself with school, saving money, my mental health, and now I'm in a position to nurture my creations. And although it's not in the form of a person or a pet or a partner, but it's more so like my creative endeavors, like my podcast. And I'm suspecting, again, this is all belief and opinion, but that it takes place, your cycle changes when your Saturn return comes back into the placement it was when you were born. So this happens approximately every 28 to 29 years, and Saturn is the planet that rules responsibility and grounding. So that's what I believe is happening to me, as well as the stress of getting bit by the dog and getting vaccines and getting COVID, also shifting my period as well. And so if you think this, or if you have thoughts about this, please let me know. I'm interested to hear what you think about this, if this aligns for you. This is just kind of a hypothesis that I have on why my cycle has shifted, because I'm in the midst of my Saturn's return, you know? I'm ovulating now with the new moon, which is really different because I do my manifestations on the new moon. So sometimes with writing, with art, praying and meditating, and it feels so different because it's more internal. I'm like inward. I'm not really social because I'm in a deep luteal phase or bleeding cycle. So I'm kind of like sluggish and tired and really want to just spend this sacred time by myself. And the energy of ovulation is going to be so different because I'm going to be more energized. Yeah, like on the full moon, you know, I want to be out, I want to go on a road trip or go hiking and going to do all this stuff. So I'm really excited for my full moon bleeding because I think that will also be fruitful to release and let go during the full moon. Because during the full moon, I usually do a release ceremony where I release things that I don't want anymore. And then also celebrate the things that I do have. So celebrating the fruit of my labor kind of thing. And so I don't know, I think it'll be really interesting to see how like this continues. I'm really interested about how it's going to continue tomorrow because tomorrow is the new moon and I'm on my way to ovulation, so I'm excited to make my manifestations through celebration, and the energy is going to be so different and cool because I'm so energized during this time. So yeah, I feel like, I don't know, the energy is just going to be so different. I feel like with being in ceremony and being like, I don't know, a little bit more moon crazed during my bleeding phase, where I'm going to be able to see the beautiful moon in the sky while I am writhing in pain with a hot pad on my abdomen. So that's pretty interesting. Anyway, I would love to know what you think about this. If you bleed with the moon, or you think about the moon a lot, and if you are also into astrology, what you think about what I said. Again, this is just like my opinions. I can't say that anymore. I literally should not say that anymore because I've said it like 3 times already. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. But yeah, that's how I am. Let's go on to the topic of the day. And as you guessed it, we're talking about ovulation. It's the ovulation occupation. Because we have ovulation around the nation and other things that have the word Ation. I really want to say this important thing is that I love you and I welcome you into my circles. And if you don't have a cycle for any reason, I love you and I welcome you, and you can be here and you can interact, and that's one thing I want to say. The other important thing I want to say is that not everyone ovulates either, and that's okay, and I love you, and every type of body is welcome here in my space, in my life and whatnot, but also just like in conversations about menstruation, you belong here. That's all I'm gonna say about that. The other thing is I am kind of reading more from a script, so if you're on video and you see me, because I'm not looking at my camera, except for right now I am, so now I'm gonna move my freaking hair around. But I'm reading more from a script because I tried recording last month, and I heard the recording back, and let's just say I had some thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts, and I needed to make them more concise. So that's why I'm trying it this way. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it happens. But I haven't been recording a lot lately because I've been busy, in other words. So I want to go to the topic of the day, which is ovulation, and I'm going to read some of my notes that you can find on the resource guide. Either you can see the link in my Instagram, or you can email me at bloodstainedbloodbags@gmail.com. So, let's talk about, let me pull up my notes. Ovulation. This is characterized by summer. So, hot, heat, things are blooming. That's the energy. Think of ovulation as the summer energy. And for new moon bleeders, this is during the full moon time, except for now for me, it's the bleeding, or now it's the new moon time for me. But anyway, do I have ovulation if I don't bleed? Yeah, yes, generally, sometimes. Never mind. Fuck that question. I don't know exactly. But I think if you're not bleeding because you're on birth control, then yes, you still ovulate. But sometimes people don't ovulate, and we'll kind of get into that in a minute. Let's go to spotting first. So spotting during this phase and cramps during this phase, there's a little name for it. It's called Mittelschmerz. Isn't that adorable? Mittelschmerz is a pain that is caused by the ovary follicle that released. So there's an ovary follicle in your egg sacs that fills up with hormones, and the dominant follicle, it is the biggest one in the egg sac, and that gets released. And so you'll get a little bit of a pain when that egg is released. And so usually the cramps will happen on the side where that egg was released. And so some people report that they have a little bit of blood during this time, and it's normal. It's Mittelschmerz. But I will say, if you feel other symptoms along with a cramp or a spotting, such as smelly discharge or a different kind of color of blood, it could be something else. But if you know that it's approximately within your ovulation time and it's a mild experience, relax. It could just be Mittelschmerz. And that's Mittelschmerz. That's about Mittelschmerz. The superpowers of this phase. First of all, I just want to say, I get pretty sad when I hear about kids' first experience learning about periods. We tell kids about periods, it sounds really negative. So I know for my niece, for example, was like, well, at least we have makeup to look forward to. And I'm like, no, there's so much more. There's so much more. It's not just a shitty thing that happens to us. If we're lucky, it can possibly be a good thing that happens to us. And we get these cool superpowers when we have our cycle, okay? So one of them is for example, I've mentioned this before, my face gets more symmetrical. And you might not be able to tell, but I can definitely tell because I've noticed my face. But also, please don't tell me if you notice that my face is more symmetrical or if you notice that my face is not symmetrical, because I will cry. But I notice when my face is more symmetrical during my ovulation phase. The other superpowers is that you release pheromones to attract other people. So your smell literally will attract people to you. The other cool thing is that your clitoris moves closer to the vaginal canal, so you can have easier orgasms. And then you'll be better at picking up social cues and reacting to them. So this is really good for parties, group situations, interviews, things like that. Your brain releases pleasure chemicals also. So when you're talking during ovulation, that's when your brain is releasing the most pleasure chemicals, which is really cool, which is why I like recording my podcast during my ovulation phase, because I'm literally getting dopamine through talking and vocalizing. So if you have like a speech, if you have a debate, if you have a party, this is a really good time to plan those things. Yeah, you'll feel better doing it, and your body's giving you rewards just for talking. So those are the awesome superpowers you get during your ovulation phase. And I definitely noticed them in me. And I think a lot of people practicing mindfulness will start to notice this happening too. So try it out. Try some mindfulness techniques. See if this is true for you during your ovulation phase. It's approximately 2 weeks after your period. There's a lot of different signs and signals that will tell you when your ovulation phase is, but it's really a good thing to notice. But you have to kind of like get used to noticing, which is why mindfulness is, a really good technique. Let's talk about the cervix position. So, your cervix position is high during this phase. So it's higher inside of you, it's softer, and it's partially open. Did I want to talk about this in cervix position? Yes, I do. So, this is really important. This is so important. Ovulation is not just about procreation, okay? It's not just about procreation. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen so often. So while physically your body is preparing for you to be fertile, the energetics of this time are all about creation of any kind. So rather than taking it literally, you can use this creative energy and actually create your own life. Or take various relationships to the next level, or work on your own goals, because your body is opening up for opportunity with these superpowers. It's not telling you to reproduce like the patriarchy wants us to think. It's also allowing us to produce our own fruit and elevate pleasurable experiences for some people that are in a good spot. But for some people that are, that's what I was going to say. But for some people that are in a good spot to conceive, use this time to get fertilized. But, like, if we're ovulating, like, every month from age 11 to 50, like, come on, like, it's not just about the babies, okay? Ovulation happens so much to people with regular cycles, so ultimately it is for our own advantage. We have an opportunity to decide how we use it, and so I personally try to create with my good old-fashioned friendships with doing ceremony, going to shows. Like tomorrow I'm going to see my friend's show, and her band's called Liability. It's really awesome. If you're in DC, you should check out Liability. Or going on hikes, or going skating, or going to open mics, going deep into conversations, or holding space for somebody and creating intimacy. And that's what really does it for me in this phase. And like that's why I like this phase so much. It's not just about procreation. This cycle helps me and works for me. And yeah, that's a little tidbit that I wanted to say. You can totally tell that I was reading a little bit from a script because I messed up. But you know what? It's better than me going, so, I mean, I know I'm still kind of doing that a little bit, but like, it's way less. It's way less, I promise. Okay. I wanted to talk about brain function and mental health. So, brain function and mental health. The height of mental health is during your ovulation phase because of the increased serotonin and dopamine that I was telling you about. Your brain is better at reading social cues, like I mentioned before. However, severe depression can cause you to miss ovulation from suppressing the hypothalamus. And other mental illnesses that suppress the hypothalamus can cause this as well. This is called hypothalamic amenorrhea. Hypothalamic amenorrhea. I know that's like a mouthful to say. It's the chronic lack of ovulation because the body doesn't feel safe to produce. So the body is prioritizing survival. That's one of the reasons why some people don't ovulate. There's more mental illnesses besides depression that influence the hypothalamus. And your body is trying to preserve itself. However, I feel like ovulation could make things feel less stressful, but I'm not the creator of the human body, so I don't know. Just know that each time that you do something to take care of your mental health, know that there can possibly be the reward that ovulation brings to your body. And maybe that can be your motivation. And then when you get your ovulation phase, you'll be actually more motivated because you'll feel the effects of it. But believe me, I know that is barely half the battle. Ultimately, it takes a village and community support, and there isn't an easy one-size-fits-all solution to chronic stress and mental illness, especially chronic stress because of the political climate, the climate, economy, and healthcare systems blocking your ease. So, yeah, I know there isn't an easy solution, and if you're out there and you're just enduring, I love you, and you can endure and make it to the other side. And there is a community out there for you to get help. And yeah. Let's talk about hormones. Hormones. It's time to talk about hormones. What am I talking about? Hormones. Oh, right. Estrogen. Estrogen peaks, luteinizing hormone peaks and rises, and a dominant follicle gets loaded up with the shits, and that's what releases the egg into the, into the things, and then it goes down, and then it gets released, and then you have a period. But yeah, so the dominant follicle gets totally loaded up with LH, and it releases estrogen, and that's pretty cool. One thing that I thought is like, your body's like, it's time to look hot, and so your skin will become more clear, which is kind of weird to me because when I think of like hormones rising, I think of like acne, but that's not really the case here. In this instance, it's like, yeah, it's trying to make you, get out there and attract someone. And do nice things. Kind of throws you a bone. I wanted to say something about... Oh yeah, never mind. I wanted to say something actually about vaginal discharge, and we love vaginal discharge here. So, during this time, as you may guess, you have an increased amount of vaginal discharge. And it will kind of be like typically egg white color, stretchy and much wetter and slipperier. That's my favorite word. Slipperier. So this can be one good tool to practice mindfulness about, like, if you're trying to figure out when you're ovulating, is taking notice of your vaginal discharge each day. And there's something that I wanted to say. I had a couple thoughts about vaginal discharge that I just think are pretty darn fun. One thought was there was like this Vice article about vabbing. I wonder if you may have seen it. I also posted it on my Instagram, but I had a funny thought about vabbing. If you haven't read the Vice document, it's when you put a little bit of vaginal discharge on your neck or your wrist to bring out your natural pheromones. And so my thought is, what if you got the discharge during your ovulation phase? Because it might be a little more potent. But I don't really know if it works like that. I've never done it. So, I don't know, maybe I'll try it and I'll report back to you. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what it's supposed to smell like, but it's supposed to bring out your natural smell. So, yeah, vab away, unless you got something going on down there. But my other thought was, if you got your discharge from your ovulation, it's going to be like more egg white. So I feel like you would have to use a small amount and then maybe like put it in a discreet area, or it's just going to look like you have like shit on you. So like, I don't know. Yeah. Like put on your wrist and wear like a bracelet or like behind your neck or something. I don't know. The other thing is like, I wonder if like there's something, so like vabbing, but like with semen. So like, I don't know, sperming or jizzing or, I don't know, rubbing sperm on yourself essentially to do the same thing. I wonder if that is a thing as well. Let me know. Let me know if you're vabbing. Let me know if you're doing this same thing with your semen. How did it affect you? Did it work? Did you smell good? Did you smell like shit? Did people notice that you had some stuff on your skin? I don't know. Yeah, the other thought I had was testosterone also rises during this time. And that's really important to know. But during ovulation, the hypothalamus releases luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone to your ovaries, which produce estrogen and testosterone is also stored in your ovaries, or your egg sacs, in other words. And it's kind of fair to say that these are your testes, because they have testosterone and estrogen and adrenal glands. There was this really cool GIF I shared a while back about, it was like a picture of a vulva that turned into a penis, and the ovaries turned into testes, and the clit turned into a shaft. And so, like, I wonder if these similar body parts have the same function. Is there a universal word that we can use for them to call both the clitoral hood and the foreskin, for example? What if we called that like a bingle-schmarf? Or if we called like the testes and the ovaries like the doodly-doos, and like, you know, like the hole that stuff comes out of, like the schnimschnarm, or something like that, you know what I mean? Because if they have the same function, what if we made kind of a unifying word for it? But yeah, I'm going to call ovaries egg sacs for now. If you don't like that, let me know. I genuinely just think it sounds funny, which is why I started saying it. I was just like, those are your egg sacs. But it's fair to say that those are also your ball sacks. You know? All right. those are my couple thoughts about hormones. And next we have sex and masturbation. So I feel like I need to like say it and then click the thing. Sex and masturbation. There we go. I don't know. It's all cheesy. Whatever. Here we go. As I mentioned before, the clit moves closer to the canal, and you become most sexually aroused at this phase because your body temperature raises a little bit, so your blood is pumping quicker or faster. I'm not sure what the right word is here, but your basal temperature does go up a little bit. It's not like a bit large amount. You're not getting a fever, but your circulation is better, and you're wetter, and your clit is closer to the canal. So any like masturbation is great at this time, and if you're interested in trying penetration, this would be a good time to do it because the clit is closer to the canal, and your discharge is better equipped for that. It's not going to dry up easily. It's slipperier, you know. So that's something you might want to try out. And then some thoughts that I had on that time was like, obviously, like, you don't need to try penetration during this time. But if you have like interest in that, try it out. Some of my thoughts about this though, if you have a partner who has the ability to get you pregnant, something to be mindful of in this phase, whether you want to avoid pregnancy or get pregnant, or there's so many things about sex that are good that don't cause procreation and don't really follow the script of P and the V. So if you're avoiding pregnancy, this is my thought. If you can still have sex during this time, because it can be so connecting and creative, and really using that ovulation creativity to have sex in a way that is both preventative and different and fun. Because again, like I said before, this time isn't about procreation like the patriarchy wants us to believe. It can just be about creation and being in the present moment. So do something fun during this time, like plan a date during your ovulation phase. And then when you do have sex during this phase, try doing something that isn't within the script. So you might find something really good. People with partners who can't get them pregnant have a lot of these experiences because there's less of a written script, and the script I'm talking about is okay, you kiss, then you do hand stuff, then maybe some mouth stuff, and then P and the V, and then that's it. Like, there's so much more you can do during this time. And so some people are like, I gotta stay away from you during ovulation because we know that could get you pregnant, and like you get a little friskier during this time, and you can still do great stuff. I think it's like a good challenge to find more creative ways to have sex that are also preventative. And then, of course, if you want pregnancy, go out, do it, have a good time. But now it's time for supportive foods. That was my best attempt at a drum roll. So, supportive foods. Supportive foods for this phase are bitter greens. Bitter greens, kale, arugula, spinach, dandelion. It's not very sexy. It's not like this phase is like so hot and like fun, but like the supportive foods for this phase is like eat a salad. Eat a kale salad. Sprinkle some arugula in there. It's not the best, but you know what? Your body's heated up. It can withstand like fiber. It can withstand cold foods, kind of thing. Um, so yeah, like this is like the time for like if you want to go for the clean eating kind of deal. This is a good time for it because your body's like uh you know it's working for you. Your digestion is working for you. All this good stuff. Supportive exercises for this phase is like one good thing is social exercise, getting a trainer, having a gym buddy, or doing a class, or doing cardio. And this is a time you want to go for the gold, do your personal best, try your absolute hardest, plan. If you're like an Olympian or something, this is a good time to plan an Olympic triathlon or whatever it is. I don't do sports, okay? Like, just whatever. If you have a thingy that you need to do, this would be a good time to do it. Like, if you are an Olympian, I would try to, like, manipulate my cycle so I'm ovulating during the Olympics so that way you could, like, you know, usually that's when people get their highest record is during their ovulation time. Also, if you are getting married, this is a good time to plan for your wedding. Like if you have a regular cycle, and that's a big if, because so many things can shift your cycle that I know people plan their wedding days like months and months and months in advance. But like if you know, like your cycle is like a clockwork, then plan your wedding for the ovulation phase. Because think about it, you have to stand for a long time. You want to be like less bloated because you picked that outfit out like whatever, how many ever months before. And you're going to want to be really social and all the good stuff and be happy during your honeymoon. And you're probably going to be talking a lot, reading your vows and stuff. However weddings work, I have no idea. Like, there's so many types of ways to do weddings now because tradition isn't always the most compassionate. But I'm just saying, it's a good idea for all y'all folks who get married. Also, estrogen in the body helps with injury prevention, like muscle tears. So that's another reason why it's a good time to try to do your personal best, because estrogen helps with muscle tears. And I think that's something like we don't spotlight enough. Like we're constantly like in the media, it's like testosterone is what's going to give you the muscle. Testosterone is going to give you the power to achieve. And they're like, if you have testosterone, then like you have an unfair advantage. But like really, like there's an advantage of both hormones. I was about to say androgens, but that just means testosterone. But no, there's benefits to estrogen and having a lot of estrogen in your body. Like, yeah. So this is a really good time to like kind of go for it. Or if you're in like a sport or something that has a lot of muscle tears, like soccer or something like that, this is a good time for that. The other thing is that pain is at its highest tolerance at this stage. So, like, this is a good time to go get a tattoo or a wax or try the kinky shit in the bedroom or to go to the dentist, I guess, or whatever. I don't know. Pain is at its, you have a high tolerance for pain during your ovulation phase. But yeah, so in conclusion, that is the ovulation notes that I have. So that is all I've got on ovulation. We're going to go to the next segment which is my period story, but I need to pause this real quick. Just do this. Okay. If you're on YouTube, you get exclusive content of me dissociating from the recording for a minute trying to do this. So, we're going to talk about my period story, though. My period story today is about the first time I used a tampon. Well, not really like the first time, because I don't remember the first time a tampon breached my hole, but I generally remember the time period. So the first time using a tampon, my sister was kind of like making it sound like the be-all, end-all, and my mom was like really weirdly pushing pads, and we didn't really get along, so it made me want to use tampons, because I got along with my sister. So I was like, I think my mom felt bad because she couldn't help me with whatever, like, because she never used tampons. And so I thought it was kind of lame to wear pads for some reason, but they didn't make me feel very good either. Like, they don't make you feel very cute, especially when you're at school and you're, like, feeling moisture down there, and I was constantly worried it was leaking because I would feel it, like, so much. And the pads wouldn't stick to the underwear, and I'd be self-conscious that people can see it through my pants. And my sister made tampons sound so cool for that reason, too. So I really wanted to try it. I first tried, like, I don't know, maybe I was 2 cycles in, I guess. I don't know, it could have been my 2nd or 3rd cycle. And I used the diagram like every time I tried, and it said to put your leg up on the toilet and then push the applicator in, pressing the thing with your forefinger. And the way I was putting it in, I guess, was wrong, even though I followed the guide and the leg on the toilet thing. It just wasn't the move, though. So, like, I was, like, constantly basically putting it in straight up towards the front of my vulva. So it wasn't really going in, and it was, like, half falling out. So it was really irritating because it was, like, always kind of, like, halfway out of me. And I was constantly trying and trying again, so I would be cool and get to use these cool tampons because I was such a grown-up or whatever. Eventually, someone along the way told me not to point it straight up into me and kind of tilt it towards the back of me. And I probably found that out online, but I was trying different positions rather than the toilet position because that was weird. Who was actually doing that? Because, like, I'm thinking, like, I was going to school while I had my period. So, like, in these small-ass bathroom stalls, who is, like, fully taking off their pants and taking their foot out of their pants to put it up on the toilet? Like, I know that's nobody because there would be a lot of shuffling going on and probably slips on gross, wet bathroom floors. So, I don't know. Tell me if you actually do that because I'm interested. But, so I had, like, a 50-50 chance of, like, getting the tampon in properly, and then slowly over time, I got like a 100% success rate. I lost a lot of good tampons, RIP, but that's the end of how I used tampons as a young little bleeder, and the period product, as you may guess, has to do with my story. So we are talking about a tampon, and the brand is L. If you don't know about L, it is a tampon, and it has got a lot of people talking lately. The story is, somebody was looking at the ingredients on the L organic tampons, and it showed that it had titanium dioxide, and they looked into what that was, and then someone stitched that video on TikTok saying, no, because I have had a lot of bad side effects and bad cramping in association with those tampons. And then a lot of people started reporting about their experience since using this tampon with titanium dioxide. So let's talk about L. If you haven't checked out that TikTok, I posted it on Instagram in my story, but I don't know. If you look for it, you will find it. So, L. It is a B corporation. So I guess they have like more benefits and transparency than regular corporations. And then their pad and liners are made in Europe and China, and the tampons are made in Europe. They come in BPA-free plastic, and they use recycled paper. They have a really cool page on their website that acknowledges that people have periods, and periods don't define people. And they have less gendered packaging because of this. So I thought that was really cool. They use inclusive language on their products and on their website, and they provide funding to various nonprofits each year. They donate to Huru Days, For Girls, and the Pad Project. A lot of people since the TikTok came out responded by reviewing L on their website. And then when I first wanted to do this story, I was reading the reviews, and they didn't respond to the reviews because there was a lot of freaking reviews, people saying, like, I saw the thing on TikTok and blah, blah, blah. And there was a lot of discussion about the titanium dioxide. But now they are responding, and I'm going to read some of the reviews that they've responded to. So, review number 1. It's titled, "Myself and many others have been getting very sick. I started using these about 4 months ago. I loved them, but then I started having issues, severe cramping, nausea, the works. Come to find out, these have titanium dioxide." And this is the real response from L. The L team. "We are very sorry to hear about your experience and appreciate you bringing it to our attention. It's important to know that our products are safe to use, and there's no conclusive evidence that titanium dioxide in our tampons cause medical harm. We use titanium dioxide in our thread, not the absorbent core. It represents much less than 0.1% of the ingredients used in our tampon. Our high-quality ingredients are rigorously tested and meet the strict safety and government regulations around the world. We take your safety very seriously. It's important for us to learn more about your concern. Please reach out to 1-888-574-9646 or by email, blah, blah, blah." Okay. Review number 2. It's titled, "Ovarian Cyst Plus Worsening Periods. Why would you put titanium dioxide in tampons? These tampons are not organic. Change your labels." And then the response from the L team. "We are reaching out in regards to your recent experience you are reporting. When there is a question about safety, we take it very seriously. We appreciate you bringing the situation to our attention. We ensure that the ingredients derived either from science or nature are all safe at the levels we use. Fact, almost everything in the world has a safe and unsafe level or a limit, including basics like sunlight, oxygen, and water. In our products, titanium dioxide is used at very low levels, much less than 0.1%, within safe levels and in compliance with government regulations." Okay, so those are the reviews. The reviews are pretty positive with the pads, but they have changed recently for the pads to be thinner, and people are reporting that they don't stick to the underwear as well. But other than that, the pads are spot on. Like, they're really good. Before I get to the elephant in the room, I wanted to say something about the heck? Beep, beep, beep. Beep, 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 beep. I wanted to say something about the safety. They have a safety and ingredients page on their website, and I don't know if it's in response to this or if they always had it, but they say safety starts with science, and quality is our obsession, and it shows. Like, they have P&G calculation based on the Nielsen Q soundtrack data, blah, 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 basically saying that they have pure cotton. And then it says 100% organically grown cotton certified by EcoCert, Green Life, blah, blah, blah. And then it shows their ingredients. I'm going to read their ingredients. This is an exclusive ingredient list of L. You can see it on their website. Their tampon ingredients are cotton, polyester, glycerin, paraffin, and titanium dioxide. And they explain what all of those do. The cotton's just cotton. Polyester is fiber that wicks away moisture. Glycerin is for coating, for a smooth feeling. Paraffin is a wax for the smooth feeling. Titanium dioxide makes material look white. The pad ingredients are cellulose-derived fibers that absorb fluid. Cotton, hot melt adhesive, keeps pad on underwear. Polyethylene, a plastic layer to keep fluid away from underwear. Polypropylene helps give the pad its shape. Titanium dioxide makes material look white, naturally occurring. Glycerin, coating for that smooth feeling. And then it says they're organic core, they use BPA-free plastic applicator, no rayon, no chlorine bleaching, dyes, or fragrances, which many other tampons do have. And it said their pad features pure cotton, chlorine-free top layer, plant-based absorbent core, no synthetic pesticides, dyes, or fragrances. All right. We're going to talk about a few facts, and then we're going to talk about my opinion, because I'm just giving you the info first, and then I'm going to tell you what I personally think, and you can have your personal opinions, and you can tell me what they are, because I'm very interested in what you have to say about them. So let's talk about this dang elephant in the room. He's big, he's a white, clear elephant called titanium dioxide. Okay, titanium dioxide, let's get into it. I looked into it a little bit, and got some facts and figures. It's a US FDA carcinogen, but what isn't though? It is linked to harm, which leads people to believe it can cause reproductive harm. It makes things absorbent and white, which is why we use it. It's used to bleach porcelain, and it's common in the US, but banned in Europe. It's known to irritate the skin, eyes, and nose. Studies have been done to show that when inhaled, it causes lung cancer. There is a study, this is going to be boring as fuck to hear, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to try to read it quickly for you, but this is from the National Library of Medicine. Let me get my, professional voice. I don't think I have a professional voice. Okay. Based on experimental evidence from animal inhalation studies, titanium oxide nanoparticles are classified as possible carcinogens to humans by the International Agency for Research on Cancer and occupational carcinogen by the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Okay, so basically they're just saying, based on experimental evidence, they think that this is a carcinogen and an occupational carcinogen. I don't know why this carcinogen has an occupation, but basically there's two organizations co-signing on this, the National Agency for Research on Cancer and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. All right, continuation. The studies on dermal exposure to titanium nanoparticles, I think dermal means skin, but don't quote me on that, which is in humans substantial through the use of sunscreens, generally indicate negligible transdermal penetration, which sounds sexy, but I think it means the toxicity isn't penetrating you when you use sunscreen. However, Data are needed on long-term exposure and potential adverse effects on the photooxidization of products. Although titanium is permitted as an adjective, it's permitted as an additive, E171, in food and pharmaceutical products, we do not have reliable data on its absorption, distribution, excretion, and toxicity on oral exposure. E171 is the additive that they use in food. Just so you know, that's how it's labeled. Titanium dioxide may also enter environment, and while it exerts low acute toxicity to aquatic organisms upon long-term exposure, it induces a range of sublethal effects. In conclusion, until relevant toxicological and human exposure data that would enable reliable risk assessment are obtained, the titanium nanoparticles should be used with great care. So basically, what that means is they need to do a study on long-term effects of titanium dioxide. And in L, they say they use it for the whiteness, and that it's only in the thread, and that it's used for, they use 0.1% of it. But the EU has banned it in its products and food. There's no studies done on its effect on the vulva. They only have it done like on skin and eyes and stuff. And similarly, Tampax and other popular brands on the shelf have these chemicals, fragrance, and BPA. So what's interesting about L is that they're BPA free and use recycled paper and try to be organic, but I truly think that people are pissed because they have the organic label and have this chemical in them. People are pretty traumatized by the greenwashing that happens, and when people have adverse experiences with their uterus and their period, they're going to take this really seriously. On L, I read that safety and ingredients page, and basically they copy and pasted that into their responses to the negative reviews. They say quality is their obsession, blah, blah, blah. They have these certifications, so yeah. So my opinion is that they get points for having non-gendered packaging and using inclusive language. So they get points also for donating to nonprofits. They wrote down their ingredients. They addressed these comments. I highly doubt they thought it would be a big deal because the more common tampon brands are much worse. And the thing is, when people are choosing organic products, they're doing it for a reason. You're paying extra. If you're paying extra, you should get that quality. But my opinion is that titanium dioxide is not good. Okay, and when I'm bleeding, my immunity is lower. I'm more susceptible to toxins. And the scientists in the study basically just say, use it with care. And it's interesting that we're even allowed to tamper with a chemical before knowing the longer-term effects. Because like cigarettes, we allowed the sale and production of them and then found out how bad they were later, and now all we do is we put a label on it. So I do think there was a shift, really, in what they thought was acceptable, because they were well, I guess other tampon brands use this, we can use it, but that's not the case. You're paying more money for it. You should get the quality you deserve. A YouTuber named Truthfully Trisha dipped one of these bad boys in a glass of water, and they kind of when they unfold, they do kind of make an M shape. If you think of a Tampax where it kind of comes out fully square like SpongeBob, this one kind of makes more like an M shape when they open up. It's still sort of like a little square, but there's more ridges, and they get longer, which is interesting. So I think when I get guests on the podcast, I want to dip a few tampons in water just to check them out. I don't really know, though, if that shape is effective, but at least it's more than the little square that Tampax has. I recently actually tried out this tampon because I was at a friend's house and I needed one, and my period underwear had already bled through. So, yeah, it worked pretty well. It was pretty cool. But, yeah. My rating is a solid 7 out of 10 for the reasons that, yes, they have this chemical in them, but they are addressing it now. They list their ingredients. It's a little bit shisty that they have more than we initially thought, because on the box you're just like, okay, great, organic cotton tampon. But they have more than that. I know that being better than other tampon brands doesn't make them the best. Like, I like that they have recycled paper and that they are BPA free and gender inclusive. So that's why I'm giving them so much points. But ultimately, I believe those folks who are saying these tampons made their period worse and that the titanium dioxide is bad for you. But yeah. So that's why I'm deducting 3 points, but go check out that TikTok. Tell me what you think. Are you gonna switch tampons if you use those? Do you hate them? Are you paranoid that there's bad stuff in your tampons? I would love to know what you think. I found these facts, and so I just told you my first thoughts on it, so who knows, my thoughts and feelings might change. I do not like mystery toxins. I don't have a good vibe about the titanium dioxide. And honestly, even though I do give them a 7 out of 10, and I did try them once, I'm not going to use that product because I do prioritize my cycle on a higher level. I need a 10 out of 10 product. So that should tell you something about me. You can do, obviously, like, what is best for you. If you want to use Tampax, great. Lots of people use Tampax. Lots of people use L. You know, that's my thoughts. My final opinion, 7 out of 10. We're gonna go on to, where the frick is my thing? This one. It's time now for a little bit of period history. And, as you kind of guessed, the theme of this episode, aside from ovulation, is tampons. Ovulation and tampons. If we're gonna go to back in time, we're gonna talk about one of the first manufactured tampons, called Fax. I don't know, I wonder why all tampons have like X's in them, which is very interesting. But I got this information from the Museum of Menstruation History, MUM. They do have the earliest documents that describe using a tampon in like centuries ago, like BCE. But today we're focusing on the first like manufactured and commercialized tampon. So Fax was manufactured in the 1930s. They described it as a internal sanitary napkin, and what's weird is that they say you can use this for up to 24 hours. And they obviously didn't know about toxic shock syndrome. The other thing is that they didn't have strings. So what you would do is you would loosen the gauze on one end and pull it out, which I feel like would be so freaking annoying to like have to like pull out the gauze and make it into a little string. They look like a super long finger, and they don't have an applicator, which is fine, but imagine like a long dry tampon that you have to handle into your, but yeah, I want to read you some like FAQs from the tampon box, and the image on the front of the box is just like this woman, and I guess it was like taken down because it was like this woman who was like all like posing and sexy, and that I guess wasn't allowed. Alright, so let me read you the FAQs because they're very interesting. Is any part of Fax left in the vagina when it's being withdrawn? And the answer is no. The cellulose is folded in the gauze. The gauze forms a housing or container for the cellulose, and withdrawn And when withdrawn, fax comes out entirely intact, one piece, leaving nothing behind. How long will fax last? Answer. This depends upon the degree of flow. It may be worn from 6 to 24 hours. Actually, some of the women testing fax wore one as long as 48 hours. Each user will determine for herself by experience how often to replace fax. Does fax interfere with urination? Answer, no. Unlike the old-style pad type of napkin, fax remains in place during urination because the bladder is emptied through another outlet, the urethra, entirely separate from the vagina. Can young or unmarried girls wear fax? Answer, yes, except in occasional case of a very young girl when insertion may be difficult. If in doubt, consult your physician. So, yeah, yikes. 48 hours. That's insane. So it says, the front of the back of the box says, why fax is absolutely safe. And it has a illustration and absorbent material. Involuntary dislodgements are impossible. Absorption is complete. Fax is absolutely safe and sure the greatest possible source of physical and mental comfort for every woman. This tassel or string is a part of the pad and used for withdrawing the pad. Interesting. And then, hold on, where's the front of the box? It's so, okay. The tampon itself looks so gnarly. It looks like a little gauze bullet. But yeah, the ad that was taken down is like a new freedom for comfort and convenience. Complete information in every box. Money back guaranteed. Okay. And it's like advertised as woman's best friend. It was one of the rarest commercials tampons like sold in the early 1930s. It was the first commercial tampon. It sold in the 1930s. But yeah, it was not like this one advertisement, because like the thing is, in this advertisement she's wearing like high heels and one of those like old-timey bathing suits, and her like nipples are like out. Not, her nipples aren't out, but like they're like pointy, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I like it. I think it's great advertising. But also, that person, can we just like talk about that person who had the tampon in for 42 hours? Like, think about the fact they might not even have been bleeding during that time to test it. But who knows? Like, I just imagine the chafing would just be insane. Like, wow, imagine being a tampon tester in the 1930s. And I just love the idea that, like, someone was like, hey, you want to be a tampon tester? Like, the title tampon tester would be, like, so cool. Like, I'm Ash. I'm the tampon tester. It's so silly. I can't imagine that the ad for this job was easy to describe. Like, hey, can you test this product? Because people didn't know about tampons, like, at that time. This was, like, the first commercial one. So, like, they would have to be like, hey, you want to test this product? It's a gauze that goes up your vagina for 24 hours. We're calling it tampon. That sounds so sketchy. You'd be like, no, that sounds fake. That sounds really terrible. That sounds like some, like, you know, person in a van. Like, I'm not going to end up in a suitcase, you know. But I hope that the people who tested it were just kind of having a good time and chilling out and, you know, just reporting their experience or whatever. I really am curious, though, to know if they were bleeding or if they weren't bleeding, especially the person who wore it for 42 2 hours, like, and luckily nothing happened to them. But yeah, that is the end of the last segment. And so yeah, we are getting close to the end. That's more so the one that I wanted to hit. But I am trying to be more better about releasing episodes. I just, go along with my cycle, so I'm trying to get better at it. But I have no idea when I'll make my next episode, but it's gonna be juicy, and I'm gonna have an awesome guest, and there's gonna be a variety of topics. Because, like, the thing is, though, I flow with my cycle, and it's difficult for me to, like, make it, like, a regular thing, like a certain day of the week. It's just, like, I feel like episodes go better when I'm feeling better. So, yeah, go check out my resource guide, see where I got this information. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and like some of the sneak peeks of my future topics, because now we're not just going to be talking about the phases of the menstrual cycle. We're going to start talking about things like gender affirmation products, different slangs and nicknames for your bleeding, period poops, endometriosis, different forms of birth control, all of this juicy, poopy, bloody mucus that comes out of my mouth and straight into your earballs, alright? Stay tuned. I love ya. And yeah, end of episode. I wanted to do the sound one more time.